My question, it comes to do with my guidance system. I've listened to CDs recently where I've heard that if I have an oblivious thought, sometimes when it seems like things are really going well and then something happens that I don't expect, it's really an oblivious thought that I'm not paying attention to. So the clarity that I'm looking for is if I'm feeling really, really good and really, really focused on something, and then I find one of these unexpected events coming along, I wonder about that oblivious thought. So if that oblivious thought has that kind of power, how is it that when I'm feeling focused and I'm feeling that my guidance system is telling me I'm on the right track, it seems like I don't quite understand how the two fit together?
Well, you know how sometimes you can be in a conversation. We had an interesting experience just now where everyone was queued up. We were expecting things to sort of move in a certain direction. And then something happened that called attention somewhere else. So let's take that for example, because there is not anything more unsettling to Esther than things not working well in these seminars. You've all gathered together. She really wants you to be able to hear. We're live streaming around the planet. She wants all of you to be able to hear. And so this is something that really matters to her, to all of them. So the question is, what's going on vibrationally?
Exactly.
So a lot of effort goes. In other words, they were here yesterday and last night setting up. The equipment has been gathered and is continually being considered for its value and its stability. And so everything that you give your attention to causes you to offer a vibration about it. And what's really at the heart of the answer that you're looking for is that very often, even though you believe that you are thinking about solutions or you're thinking about what you do want, every subject is really two subjects, what you want and the absence of it. And so sometimes without realizing it, you have a vibration going on about the very opposite of what you want without even realizing it. Now, you started this conversation out in a very direct and powerful way by saying, I believe that I'm feeling really good. Things are going really well for me. And we want to point out to you that you are a multifaceted thinker, that you have different subjects in your life. And that on some subjects, it's very easy for you to align with the source perspective.
Yes.
And on some subjects, it's not quite as easy to align with the source perspective, because what happens is you often give your attention to what's happening in your experience. So sometimes what's happening in your experience is the predominant catalyst for what is going on vibrationally. It's a sort of rare person who offers the deliberate vibration that they mean to offer all day, every day, because you are responsive to conditions. In other words, Esther, behind the curtain, she's standing there. We walked back with her, and then she is standing there, and we released while they're fussing with the microphone and with the battery pack and so on. And she was not a happy camper. In other words, she thought it was a funny thing, but she was not a happy camper because something happened that she did not want to happen. Now, are we asking you to just suddenly be different than you are? Stop caring about what you care about? Not notice that something you want is not happening the way you want it to happen? Not at all, because this is the way you define who you are and what you want. We just don't want it to be very important. She comes here and finds it funny. Did you notice she was finding it funny? She was sort of over her frustration and over her, what in the hell is going on with this battery pack feeling? And now she's finding the fun in it, because it is pretty funny when you think about teachers of deliberate creation. So the time to recover your vibrational frequency is not in the midst of something that is amiss. In other words, because the momentum of it is what it is. We're going to get exactly to what you're reaching for. We're just building a basis of it here. So the time to recover your vibrational balance is not during the time that the momentum is happening. In recent gatherings, we've been talking about whatever you've got going on vibrationally creates a vibrational grid that equals your point of attraction. And your point of attraction is then filling in with things that match it. This grid is filling in with things that match it. So if you've been listening to us for a while, we've been pointing out that when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. So you put into your vortex, you emanate a vibration that gathers in this swirling, law of attraction-based, momentum-based vortex. And the source energy part of you joins that vortex. So we stand in your vortex with all that you have identified that you want. But all day, every day, you're offering vibrations. And as you're offering vibrations, you are creating vibrational points of attraction that may be lining up with this core vibration of who you really are, and maybe not. When it lines up, the grids click into place and you feel an alignment. You feel a power and a clarity. You feel a love and appreciation. You can feel the leverage of the power of the alignment. It's what people have called enlightenment. It's what those enlightened moments are, you see. But to ask yourself to stand in that grid stacking up, everything in alignment moment all day, every day, would prevent you from ever sifting and sorting. It would keep you from ever rediscovering. It would keep you from amending your desires. It would keep you from the expansion that you are about. So your life experience is all day, every day about standing as central and as centered and as aligned with who you are as possible while you are reaching into the new experience. While you're reaching into the new experience and redefining constantly. In other words, could there be any expansion if there were not constant redefining? Esther was watching Mark on the airplane, who was watching the 872nd episode of some computer tech program. He watches it. He's always wanting to stay on the leading edge of technology. And as she is watching it, she said, are all of those segments available? Could anyone go back and watch them? And he said, I believe they are all still available. And then Esther said, but those back at the beginning would no longer apply to where we are in terms of technology today, would they? In other words, those beginning dialogues are about equipment that is no longer relevant. Everything is shifted with the internet. Everything is shifted with the microchip. Everything is shifting with the cloud now. Everything is shifting constantly. Constant new expansion and constant new adjusting by you. If you're going to stay up on the leading edge of technology, you've got to watch the last episode, not the first episode. And if you're going to stay up on the leading edge of your vibrational frequency, you have to focus where the source within you is now, not where it once was. And it is a constant rebalancing act, isn't it? So when something happens that gives you an indication that you're out of balance in some way, this is something to revel in. This is something to be excited about. This is something to acknowledge. This is all part of the expansion process. Because without this experience, I could not offer with any kind of clarity who I am and what I am now wanting. The process is to let the contrast help you to define, and then to do your best to align with the continual evolving definition of who you are and what you want. Negative emotion is not a bad thing. It's a clarifying thing, and therefore it is a good thing. Knowing what you don't want is not a bad thing. It's a necessary thing to know what you do want. Knowing what you do want is a delicious thing when you line up with what you do want, but isn't there a lot of fun in the process of figuring out what you really want? And isn't there a lot of fun in deliberately choosing the vibration once you've identified what you want and feeling it coming more and more into harmony? And isn't the real fun, and this is really what we want deliberate creators to be aware of, isn't the real fun in knowing what you want and knowing that you may or may not be in complete alignment with it, and then figuring out how to be in alignment with it, and then getting to watch the beneficial results of lining up? Isn't it a delicious thing to watch the cooperative forces of this magnificent universe supporting you with clarity and leverage and power? In other words, this conversation today is going to be about the grid filling in. Don't you love knowing that your grid will fill in? Don't you love knowing that whatever you've got going on vibrationally will fill in? If you haven't been hearing us talking about the grid, do not worry. You will be clearly understanding it before we are finished here today. It's about your
Okay.
point of attraction. So now when you sat down, you ask a very important question. Ask it again now. Can you?
Well, I'm not sure because I think I have a different
You
perspective.
do. You do.
Yeah,
And
it's-
that's, but so ask
Yeah.
it from where you now are.
Well, the way that I now see it is if I'm in the middle of a situation and I have a disruption that I didn't expect.
A disruption.
Yeah.
A disruption.
Yeah.
A disruption. A disruption. Could there be a more significant disruption? A disruption. A disruption.
Right.
A not so terrible, always clarifying, beneficial in the
Right.
long run, unimportant in the short run, disruption. Yes?
Yes. But that's exactly what I just got that perspective today is, okay, when the disruption comes along, it's an opportunity to focus. So instead of going, it's more like,
But is all right if you go behind the curtain.
yeah. Yeah. But as long
Go
as I
behind the
don't.
curtain and have your
Yeah. Yeah, as long as I'm not staying in the it's like,
there.
oh. That's the new perspective, and that's what I want.
And understanding that it's all part of the process, all part of the important process. Nothing going wrong, everything going right. Because, friends, if you had not intended to be on the leading edge of all expansion, you would have stayed in non-physical. You would not have come into the contrasting environment where variety could cause you to focus in new ways. Nice to know.
Yes.
And anyone who doesn't understand what's going on here would think that you are a plant, and that the microphone is too. In other words, it's just constant demonstration, isn't it, of vibrational frequencies. And so, so in this context, was it meaningful? Was it helpful? Did something go wrong? Yeah, something went wrong in the short run, but is anything really wrong? Have you heard us say you never get it done and you cannot get it wrong?
Yeah.
You never get it done and you cannot get it wrong. And you made the best point of all, maybe the best point that will be made all day and made already. And that is that what you do next is what matters. In other words, and what you do next really has to do with the stability of who you really are. In other words, how fast you return to who you really are, and how fast you integrate your new knowledge into who you really are, and how fast do you allow, no matter what has happened, no matter where you are, how fast do you allow yourself to get back up to speed with the wholeness of who you are. And this is the most important thing that we want you to hear from us ever, ever, ever. How willing are you to get back into the game of contrast? That really matters, doesn't it? Because if we somehow convince you, we never would do it on purpose. If we would somehow convince you that it's important for you to get into the vortex and just stay there always, you would be unwilling to ever play the game of life. You would be unwilling to ever get out into a new one. You would be unwilling to ever take a chance on expansion, which is inevitable. You got to go with the flow of expansion, which means you've got to go with the flow of contrast, which means you've got to go with the flow of variety, which means you've got to. But so what is the underlying, what is the basic application of something that you can use for meaningful expansion? Deliberate focus. And we're not talking about the deliberate focus of what your thoughts are. We're talking about the deliberate focus of how you feel. Deliberately focusing into the... Esther this morning on a notebook wrote the word fun 100 or 200 times. Fun, 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 fun. Here comes fun.
We're having fun today.
Here comes fun.
Yeah.
Fun, balance. When you're reaching for balance and harmony and ease and find it, before you know it, you're looking for clarity and exhilaration and passion and excitement till you find it. And then you're looking for fun and balance and harmony and ease. In other words, it's just this constant awareness of what would feel best to me right now. Your intentions of activity, even your intentions of what you focus upon. But if the core intention is that balance and harmony and alignment and well-being, you can use whatever word appeals to you most, but that's what you're reaching for. And as that's always what's on your mind, then the contrasts that surround you will serve you in meaningful, consciously productive